Our next guest has some ideas on how to fix our debt dilemma. After all, he is a member of the Gang of Six, the bipartisan group, 3 Republicans, 3 Democratic senators, and is the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. Joining me now, we're pleased to have from Capitol Hill, Democratic Senator Kent Conrad of North Dakota. Senator, so appreciative that you're joining us because you've got some inside scoop, I hope. Are we any closer to a deal on this?
In one sense we are, Liz, because, you know, in this town you got to go through a certain amount of kabuki, a certain amount of theater
yes,
to get to the other side. And I think that's kind of the stage that we're in now. But you can begin to see the outlines of a plan that could take us forward. I think Senator Reid has made a real contribution, putting on the table $2.7 trillion of spending reductions, reacting to what the Republicans in the House have said. There's no revenue in this package, but it would create a special congressional committee to report at the end of the year on a plan to deal with our entitlements and our revenue. So that could be a way forward here, but lots of work yet to be done.
Lots of work to be done. But, you know, interestingly enough, the Gang of Six, of which you were a part, had come up with a plan. Of course, it's a matter of timing. It would take too long to write that up. But Republican Senator from Maine, Susan Collins, just told Fox producers that, quote, she wants to see the leaders take a version of the Gang of Six plan with its $500 billion down payment. This all needs to be done before the election and, of course, the extension of the debt ceiling. What in your part of the Gang of Six plan do you feel really should be in what our preferred plan is eventually adopted?
You know, I think the strength of the Gang of Six plan is, number one, it is the only bipartisan plan that's emerged. 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans,
right.
6 months, hundreds of hours of negotiations. It is a balanced plan in the sense that it has entitlement reform, tax reform, and spending reductions, including defense. And it is a package of almost $4 trillion of savings over 10 years, which is about the size that we need, at least as a beginning. And so there are a lot of strengths in that effort. And, you know, none of us got quite what we'd like to have, which is probably a good indication that's about where we have to be.
Well, a lot of people say that if both sides are unhappy, it means that maybe we got a decent deal here. Let me go back to that $4 trillion number. The S&P analysts and the people in charge of deciding whether they'll downgrade U.S. debt said they need to see, to avoid that, they need to see $4 trillion in cuts, but they also needed to see bipartisan movement. Neither the Reid plan or the Boehner plan has $4 trillion. It just doesn't. Okay, so what we're looking at, though, in the end is a question. Does your plan, the Gang of Six, even stand a chance?
I think it does. In fact, I think at the end of the day, something like what we've done, which is very close to what the Fiscal Commission did, which is the only other bipartisan effort that's emerged around here. That was 11 members, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, 1 independent, the commission. Our group, 6, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and the 2 of those came out in almost the identical spot. So my own belief is when all is said and done around here, you're going to find that we're very close to what we've done, because that's what happens when Republicans and Democrats
get together
over an extended period of time really have a tough negotiation.
So we had you, we had Dick Durbin, we had Mark Warner on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, Tom Coburn, Mike Crapo, and Saxby Chambliss. But now, if, for example, the Boehner plan were put forth, the president's advisor said that they would recommend he veto that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, look, the Boehner plan really is nowhere near what we need, $1.2 trillion. I just think that's not where we need to be.
Okay, but the Reid plan, of course, has what some people would call a little bit of gimmickry when it comes to $1 trillion in credits involving the war wind down, assuming that we would have $1 trillion in cuts because we'd be pulling back from war spending, which we were going to do anyway. So how do you square with that?
Well, in fairness to Senator Reid, the Office of Management and Budget and the Congressional Budget Office would both score his savings as real.
Okay.
On the other hand, all of the bipartisan commissions that have worked, none of them have counted that savings. So, you know, there you have both sides of the story.
We have about 25 seconds left. How worried are you, Senator, that we won't come to an agreement by August 2nd?
I'm a little more nervous than I was. I believe at the end of the day we will not default. That would be a catastrophe. Let me just emphasize to people, this is not a matter of saying that Congress can spend more in the future. This is a matter of paying the obligations we've already made. So if we don't do that, you can imagine what would happen in the credit markets. Our interest rates would go up, and for every 1% increase in interest rates, it adds $1.3 trillion to the debt. So we got to keep that in mind.
We sure do. Senator Kent Conrad, our very big thanks for getting before our cameras. I know it's an extraordinarily busy time for everybody inside the Beltway, so thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
Anytime.